When you've ever collapsed under the weight of a broken marriage, the pain feels unbearable, like a storm that shatters the foundation of everything you once believed in. Love, trust, and the future you envisioned all seem to crumble in an instant. In moments like these, it's easy to feel lost and alone, but it is often during this time of brokenness that God's presence becomes most profound. Through the heartache, He gently guides you, offering healing, hope, and a path forward, revealing that even in the deepest pain, His love never fails. Lily stood in front of the mirror, her once radiant smile long gone. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Her marriage had taken a toll on her soul, leaving her feeling empty, broken, and defeated. It wasn't always this way. Once upon a time, she believed in love, in marriage, and in the dream that her husband, Andrew, would be the one who would protect her heart. But things had changed. The arguments started as small, insignificant disagreements who would pick up the groceries or which movie to watch on Friday nights. But soon, those trivial disputes turned into shouting matches, cold silences, and harsh words that chipped away at her spirit. Andrew's affection had dwindled, replaced by anger, frustration, and eventually indifference. The night everything fell apart, Lily had stood in the living room, heart racing, as Andrew packed his bags. "I can't do this anymore," he had said, his voice low but steady. "We're just not good together." Lily didn't argue. She didn't plead. She couldn't find the strength to fight for a marriage that had been crumbling for so long. Andrew left, and with him, so did the life Lily had imagined they'd build together. She spent the following days in a fog. The world around her moved on, but she remained still, stuck in a loop of sadness and regret. Why hadn't she seen the signs? Why hadn't she tried harder? Was this her fault? In her brokenness, Lily felt more alone than ever before. Friends tried to comfort her, but their words, though kind, felt empty. "You'll be fine," they would say. "You're strong," but Lily didn't feel strong. She felt lost, like a ship without an anchor, drifting aimlessly through a sea of confusion and heartache. One Sunday morning, after weeks of isolating herself, Lily dragged herself out of bed and decided to go for a walk. She hadn't been to church in months, and she didn't plan on going that day either. She just needed fresh air, something to clear her head. As she walked through the quiet streets of her neighborhood, her feet led her past a small church she had once attended as a child. The building looked the same as it had years ago, simple, with white walls and a bell that rang every hour. Without thinking, she stepped inside. The pews were nearly full, the congregation deep in worship, singing hymns that Lily hadn't heard in what felt like a lifetime. She sat in the back, not wanting to draw attention, and for the first time in what seemed like forever, she felt a small sense of peace. The music, the prayers, the atmosphere, it was like a balm for her wounded heart. The pastor's sermon that day was simple but powerful. When you stumble, don't worry. God will be with you. Lily's eyes welled up with tears. She had stumbled. She had fallen hard. But in that moment, she realized that she wasn't alone in her pain. God was with her, even in her brokenness. After the service, the pastor noticed Lily sitting alone and approached her. He had kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. "I don't think I've seen you here before," he said softly. Lily hesitated. "I used to come here when I was a kid," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's been a long time." The pastor nodded, understanding without pressing further. "It's never too late to come back," he said. "God is always waiting." Lily felt something stir inside her. For so long, she had felt abandoned by Andrew, by herself, and even by God. But in that moment, she realized that God hadn't left her. She had distanced herself from him. And now he was calling her back, offering her a hand to help her rise from the ashes of her broken marriage. Over the next few weeks, Lily began attending church regularly. She started praying again, not just the hollow prayers she had uttered in desperation, but heartfelt conversations with God. She told him about her pain, her anger, her confusion. And slowly, she began to feel his presence more and more. One afternoon, while sitting on a bench in the church garden, Lily opened her Bible to the book of Psalms. As she read, one verse stood out to her. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Psalm 34:18. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief. God understood her pain. He wasn't distant or indifferent. He was near, holding her broken heart in his hands. As the weeks turned into months, Lily found herself healing in ways she never thought possible. She started volunteering at the church, helping with community outreach programs. Through these activities, she met new people, compassionate souls who showed her what true friendship and support looked like. One person in particular stood out. His name was Mark, and he had a quiet strength about him that reminded Lily of the man she had once hoped Andrew would become. But Mark wasn't flashy or charming in the way Andrew had been. He was steady, patient, and most importantly, he was rooted in his faith. Mark and Lily began spending more time together, initially as friends, but over time, their connection deepened. Mark never pressured Lily to open up about her past, but when she finally did, he listened with empathy and understanding. He shared his own story, how he had lost his wife to illness years ago and had struggled with his own grief and loneliness. In Mark, Lily found a kindred spirit, someone who had also known pain, but had chosen to lean on God for strength. They bonded over their shared experiences, their faith, and their desire to find peace in the midst of life's storms. As their relationship grew, Lily felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. She no longer saw herself as broken or unworthy of love. She realized that her worth wasn't tied to her past, her mistakes, or even her marriage. Her worth came from God, and He had never stopped loving her, even when she had turned away from Him. One evening, as Lily and Mark sat together watching the sunset, she turned to him and said, "I never thought I could be happy again. After everything that happened with Andrew, I thought my life was over." Mark smiled gently. "God has a way of bringing beauty from ashes," he said. "He never wastes our pain." Lily nodded, her heart full of gratitude. She had stumbled, she had fallen hard, but God had been with her every step of the way, guiding her through the darkness and leading her to a place of healing and joy. As time passed, Lily and Mark's relationship blossomed into something beautiful, a love built on faith, trust, and mutual respect. They weren't perfect, and they knew that life would bring challenges, but they also knew that with God at the center, they could face anything together. Looking back, Lily realized that her broken marriage wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where she learned to trust God, to lean on Him in times of trouble, and to believe that no matter how far she had fallen, He would always be there to lift her up. And so, with God's guidance, Lily found true happiness again, not in the way she had once imagined, but in a way that was deeper, richer, and more fulfilling than she ever thought possible. She had stumbled, but she hadn't fallen beyond God's reach, and that made all the difference.